Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is James Bonanno, and I am so excited to be kicking off this beautiful Monday evening, afternoon with a creative challenge in Premiere Pro. First of all, I hope you all had a wonderful holiday weekend and are super excited to get cranking on some Premiere Pro tips today and for the rest of this week for 30 minutes each day. For those that are new here, welcome, whether you're joining us from YouTube, Behance, wherever you are in the world. It's a pleasure to be here to teach you today about some of my favorite Premiere Pro tips. So sit tight as we hop right into Premiere Pro and get this party started. Those that are joining us in the chat, please feel free to ask any questions as I move along. Today is going to be a foundational video all about how I use selects and how you can edit more efficiently using some of the newer features in Premiere Pro's project select sequence. And we will go through some of the tips and tricks that I use as my keyboard shortcuts to just make my editing more efficient, quicker, and just overall more enjoyable, which is really what we're here to do today. So thanks again for everyone joining us. Questions, please leave them in Behance, and let's just hop right in to Premiere Pro and get started. So for those that have or would like to follow along, there is a link in the description of the video on Behance right now that has the starter files. I believe that will be linked in the description on YouTube as well. And all those files are what you need to get started if you want to follow along with me as we go through this tutorial today. So really what I want to talk about as we go through the rest of this week, let's start with the foundations. I want to start with the most efficient building blocks to get you into Premiere as quickly as possible and using select sequences specifically. So if you're a first-time editor, selects are essentially a way for me to aggregate all the footage that I have. What you see right here is some GoPro footage that I pulled randomly from a recent trip to French Polynesia and Bora Bora a few months ago. And I thought it'd be just a great way to just pull some random clips that we have from this trip. The reason I like to create selects is it gives me an opportunity to have a starting point. I can get kind of overwhelmed if you have a big project. Maybe you have footage from a drone, from your phone, from a camera, and you want to start to just piece these things together a little more efficiently in the down the line as a final cut. Selects really help you to start there. So before we get started, I have a file open already, which will look a little bit different than what you have on your computer at home. But what I want everyone to do, if you follow along with me, is just go to File, New Project. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually import our footage as a select sequence all in one move. And that's one of the changes that Premiere's made recently that just takes one step away and speeds up our workflow that much more. So I've already kind of gone to this, but what you'll notice on the home screen now when you open up Premiere Pro, if you haven't opened it in a couple months, this might look a little bit different. If you've been using it every day, then you can just speed through what I'm talking about right now. But for the sake of today's tutorial, I'm going to name this project Adobe Live Challenge number 1, okay? And we're going to call this Selects. That's just my project name, okay? And my project location, I always want to make sure that my project location is saved inside of the same folder that all of my footage and my assets are saved to. So right now I have a drive that I'm working off of. This is just a solid state drive, whether you're working off your local laptop, desktop, PC, whatever, you'd want to create a folder of that project. In this case, my folder is Daily Creative Challenge, and that folder inside there is Challenge 1. And so what I want to do is I want to navigate, and I've already saved. I'm going to just press choose because that's where I'm going to save that file and this project. And then what I want to do is I want to import all this footage from the GoPro so we can start taking all this footage as just one select sequence and start piecing that together the second we get into Premiere. So I'm going to go back over here, and what you'll notice is I've already let's go to home real quick. So this might be what the home screen looks like for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate back to that folder that I've already set up here into Daily Creative Challenge. And I'm going to go into Challenge 1, and I'm going to open up the GoPro footage. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all of these clips. Command A will do it, or you just highlight them all. And what you'll notice now is everything is highlighted and checked so that these are the clips I'm going to now import directly into my select sequence inside of Premiere. And before we do that, I want to go over here to the right, and I want to name my sequence name. it'll by default name it sequence 01, 02, 03, so on and so on. But I want to get a little more specific. So I'm just going to call this GoPro selects. I like using underscores, just kind of a file naming preference so that I can, again, keep myself more organized. You can create new bins if you do this inside of Premiere. So let's turn that on and try this. This bin is going to be called GoPro footage. So I'm already starting to organize my project before I even get into Premiere Pro. And again, all about efficiency, all about speeding up that workflow and getting editing as quickly as possible. Okay, we're going to ignore the copy media. And right now we have our title. We have the location of where it's being saved. Everything's looking good. I'm just going to go create. Okay. And now that took a millisecond, maybe it took no time at all. We have now created a file, Adobe Live Challenge 1, and we've already created a bin. That bin has brought in all our footage for us. And we have a select sequence that's right here down in our timeline. And I'm going to take it one step further. This does not mean that you can't just continue to organize these bins and footage inside of Premiere. If anything, you could just keep tightening it and do what works best for you. I'm going to go in and I'm going to name this sequences, and I'm going to drag it under my bin here. I'm going to add a couple folders, and then we're going to actually get into doing some editing here. And I'm just going to put it inside my selects. And the reason I do that is I have different sequences that I edit down the line, drafts, deliverables. You might nest a sequence. So I like to keep those things as organized as possible. Hello, Steve. Hello, Dorina, Christelle. Hello, everyone. We got a whole bunch of people. Voodoo Val, welcome, welcome, everyone. It's so great to have everyone here the weekend or the day after, after Thanksgiving, after the holiday. All right, so we have our selects. Boom. What next, James? What are we going to be getting into? And that is what I want to spend the majority of our time doing in the 20 minutes that we have here today. So I work very heavily in keyboard shortcuts, and I believe in the power of keyboard shortcuts in any Adobe program. Premiere Pro is no exception, because it allows me to get my selects cut quicker. It allows me to get into the edit quicker and tell my story without losing that creative inspiration. And once you start editing, those keyboard shortcuts will become more common and just easier to remember. But there's a few that I want you to remember today. So if you go up into the left-hand side here, there's a keyboard shortcuts panel that everyone has access to. And I've kind of altered mine a little bit. The default, if you go up here, will just be Adobe Premiere Pro default. If you customize it in any way, which I highly recommend, and you don't like it, you can just go back to the default. Or if you're coming from a really old Final Cut Pro model, you can kind of decide what keyboard layout works for you. I tend to customize it. And the ones I'm going to look at here are shuffle left, shuffle right, and ripple delete. And there's one other one, ripple edit tool. These are the four that we're going to be really talking about today. And the reason I like to use these, and you'll see in a minute, is I want to basically fly through these selects and edit while I'm flying through them and just pick out those nuggets that I like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this live. Spacebar will fast forward this. I'm going to mute our audio track because no one wants to hear GoPro audio, at least in this way. And let's say I like this clip right here. Okay. I like when she puts her hands up, and let's cut right there. Okay. All I'm going to do is press B on my keyboard, and you're going to notice this little arrow comes up. I'm going to drag that out. And rather than having to Command K, go V to select this, delete it, and then close the space, all I'm doing is ripple editing that. So I'm pulling that out and I'm moving my whole select sequence back. And what this is allowing me to do is just editing on the fly quicker down my timeline and getting as tight as possible. Okay, now we're going to keep going. Let's say we like that wave there. 1 is how I set up go back. So if I click 3, I can speed through my footage and fast forward. So 1 will fast forward 1x, 2, 2x, 3, 3x, and so on. And this allows me to, rather than using my mouse, keep my hands on the keyboard and just almost work just using my keyboard to cut those selects up as efficiently as possible. So if we go in here, I like the wave, and then I want to cut that. But I don't want to ripple edit the same way I did to my last clip, because I know that there's moments inside of this sequence here that I still want to use. So instead, I'm going to go Command K, and then I'm going to play through this. And let's see if there's another moment we actually like. Let's say we like both of them waving. Okay, this is Anna scuba diving for the first time. We will not talk about this moment because it was traumatic, but she looks very happy. So we're going to take that moment. And I want to get rid of the fluff here. So we're going to go Command K. And here is an appropriate time where we would delete that spot and keep moving. So we have wave here. And then let's scrub through this. I actually really like that part as well. Again, Command K, using my keyboard shortcuts, speeding through 1 and 3. I think in the default, it's usually L and J on whatever the Premiere Pro hotkeys are. But again, shuffle left, shuffle right, whatever your hands feel the most natural doing, set those keyboard shortcuts up and just customize them the way you want. Okay, so 1, let's go 3. I like this moment right here. Okay, and I'm gonna go B here, and then I'm gonna go the opposite way. And now I'm gonna drag, and now what I've done is I have a moment, and I have that moment here without having to go Command K. So again, all of these little ripple edit tools and ways that we're doing this are gonna just really, really make our life a lot easier. Okay, Command S, save that bad boy. Let's keep going. This is a really cool moment. This was our instructor here. He was showing us how to dive. Again, I really just like that whole sequence there, but I don't like when I pan back down. So let's cut it there, okay? And we're gonna press B here. We drag that out. So we're getting some selects, and even just in that little amount of time, let's see, I like this. I think what I like is actually getting some of that movement from the GoPro itself, even though it's a little shaky. If I was going to use this in an edit, we may be able to clean that up and use it almost as like a whip pan or a transition. So I don't want to lose that part of it. I'm going to keep that as my select. And rather than using B here and, you know, just taking one more step, I'm just going to press Q on my keyboard. Okay. And now what it's done, and I actually want to take a little bit more of that out. I'm going to go, let's say, frame by frame. So if I'm going frame by frame, it's the arrow keys. I rarely do that unless I have to get really specific. I'm going to press Q. And if you see what happens here, Q basically just takes anything that is before the playhead to the left of it and deletes it. So that right there, if we go back to our shortcuts, that is our ripple trim. And that is a tool I use all the time for efficient editing. If I was going to do it the more manual way, again, just another way to speed up this workflow. If I was going to just come in here right now, this is the manual way. I have my mouse, I'm dragging over it. I want to cut here. I go over to my razor tool. I press C, I go to V, I click that, and now I close that up. It didn't take that much longer, but you multiply all of those steps over the course of an entire project, the whole film, and you're really cutting into some serious time, and you might end up pulling your hair out just going through the selects. So the select process, I like to tell people, and I tend to do it on every project, is not really an option. I think it's a must on every single project because it just is a starting point for the entire rest of the process. You know what footage you have to work with, you know the best selects you have to work with, and then you can start a cut using these selects. Okay, so we're gonna keep on going here. Boom, there I am scuba diving. Also the first time. If anyone has been scuba diving, I love it, so I'm hoping to do it again. Okay, and I don't need this whole clip, although I do like, let's see, I actually, see, this is a moment where you go through the select, and I actually like this more. So I'm gonna take this right here, and I'm just gonna press Q. And now what I've done is I've just taken that as the select, okay? And we're gonna cut it right before I move the camera, and we're gonna press B on our keyboard, and then ripple edit that out. All right, and we are just flying through it, okay? Speeding up, going back. This is kind of cool. Let's see, do we like anything in here? Another wave, lots of waving and thumbs ups. Okay, Q. Again, I don't want the fluff, I just want the good stuff. Okay, B. Another thing I didn't really mention, which I would probably suggest doing, and I didn't really do this here, but what I like to do is take your full selects sequence, and then I actually just duplicate it. So I would come in here and copy and paste all of this, right? So I would actually just go here, controller option on a PC, and drag it over. And then I would use this as the trimmed select so that if I ever feel like I want to go back to the originals, I have that right next to it. So we'll just keep that like that in case we want to actually revisit it. And it's just another way to have like double redundancy of your footage that you've already edited. Okay, so let's keep moving through here. That's kind of a cool situation here. And I think I shot this in 60 frames. So I know even though there's not a lot of usable footage here, I can slow this down. And I'm gonna go Q on my keyboard. So boom, boom, and let's cut it there, right as I decide to, or whoever was operating the camera decided to tilt it. I think it's probably, that's for Instagram. And we're just gonna delete this for now and close that up. Okay, so what you can see is if I go to Command J and I slow that down to 40%, because I shot that at 60 frames, that's now slowed down. I'm gonna press A on my keyboard, and this will actually move all of my tracks over. And then I'm gonna extend this clip out because now I like this clip. And I mean, you can see how much time I got back with this clip before it even turns, okay? B again on my keyboard, oops. We're just gonna go here and we're gonna close that up. All right, and this is just how I navigate my selects. This is how I go through my project all the time. Every project, whether it's for a client, whether it's for Adobe Live, whether it's just for fun, I go through all of my projects this way. And this is, to me, this is a very therapeutic way for me to understand what footage I got. And if I'm really excited about the footage, this is the very first thing I do the second I upload all the cards and organize the footage, because I find that it gets me really motivated to start editing the first version, the rough cut, as I like to call it. Okay, this is a cool moment here. I think that slowed down or speed ramped could be really sweet. All right, and I'm gonna make sure you're on the clip here. Q, boom, get rid of that. We don't want any of that other sauce. 3, I'm fast forwarding. I don't really want that. I'm gonna come in here, B, and we drag it out. And look at how much tighter all these selects are starting to get from what we have in here. This is just from a handful of clips. So if you're following along with me at home right now, you know, all of these little shortcuts, whether you're a beginner editor or an advanced editor, and I decided I don't really like any of that. So boom, just delete the clip, close her up. All right, let's see. That's kind of cool. These are some friends that we met on our trip that have become lifelong friends, I want to say. Scuba diving together for the first time. It makes you close. All right, so we're gonna cut that, and I just want to scrub through this to see if there's anything else in here that I may want. And this is just, you know, sometimes you got to do the traditional motion, but I don't want it. So boom, delete. Okay, keeping that. Fast forward through all of the fish, beautiful fish, but not a ton to look at. I don't think we really need that. Again, I'm going to get rid of that clip, and I'm doing this all with, you know, 4 or 5 keys, really. This is kind of nice here. 1 to go back. I like that fish there. Command K, delete that. All right, and then let's just go Command K again. That'll cut it. And again, I don't really think I'm going to use any of that, so I'm going to delete that. And now I've created another sequence or another select. And now if I want to go back and like scrub through these selects, I'm just using my up and down arrow keys, so I can start to see what I have to use. And maybe what I'll do is, if I know that I'm going to come in here and definitely use this clip, I may actually come in here and label this. So let's label this mango. It just stands out for me on my timeline. So when I reference my selects folder or my select sequence, when I'm creating a rough cut, I can very easily drag and drop that. And so let's say we go into our assembly panel and I create another sequence here in settings. I'm going to go custom 1920 by 1080. Let's make that 23. Let's call this Bora Bora rough cut. Okay. I try not to have spaces. I think I'm just OCD that way. All right, so this is our Bora Bora rough cut below our selects. So I call this pancake editing. I've gone over this before in a couple Adobe Lives. And then all I'd have to do is start dragging this down. I'm gonna keep my existing settings. And if I set this to the frame size, because I shot it in 4K, this would fit. So this is a way now that, let's say these were all my selects here, I can start referencing this just as you would writing an essay. Maybe you're pulling, words from an older draft. The select sequence is your first draft. That's the way I like to look at it. Okay. And if I wasn't explaining this, I'd be going through it way quicker, but I want to make sure you all understand just how easy it is. Okay, so Q, we don't want any of that beginning fluff. Q, again, ripple trim, get rid of that. We don't want it. And as an editor who does this, for a living, and if you start to edit more and more, this becomes just easier to know preference, what clips you want to keep, what moments you might use, and what ones you're definitely not going to need. So this is kind of cute moment of our friends, husband and wife here. They are amazing, and they travel all over the world with their kids nonetheless. So huge inspiration. Okay, I like that. Boom, thumbs up. And I don't really like her wave because it's a little shaky here. So I'm just going back with 1. That's my shuttle left. And let's just cut it right after he throws the thumbs up. B on my keyboard, boom, dragging it out. There's my select right there. It's very quick and easy. Let's say I want that as an option, label mango, and boom. We're editing. Now we're dragging it down. And, we're essentially like starting to edit something that's coming together in less than 20 minutes. So very, very powerful stuff. Honestly, time-saving tips. Yeah, those in the chat. Thank you, Christelle Valder, for following along here. I nerd out about people that have tips like this too in just daily life. And as a full-time editor, these tips just make my job a little more enjoyable. It's always enjoyable editing video, but much more enjoyable. This is cool. This is, I believe, a sea urchin that stuck to our scuba instructor's hand. I thought that was a really cool moment. So I'm going to take that. All right. And let's fast forward through it. Boom. And let's just keep when he turns over. So what I do a lot of the time is I'm going through it. I know that there's handles on either end that I may use. So I just go Command K to both rather than Q and edit, cutting out the beginning. And then let's see, I actually like this moment here. He looks very zen, right? So you can imagine some cool stuff. So there, and now I'm going to press Q there instead. There's a good moment and we swim away. Okay. And let's go B. Drag that out. And then this part of the clip, I like that. Although it doesn't really work for our friend Wasim. So I'm just going to get rid of this clip altogether. Okay. And I actually like just when it turns over. So let's go right as it's about to turn over and Q. Ripples that. Let's drag this down. Oops. Drag this down. And this is just, you can keep on going. You can continue to refine these selects more and more. Got a couple minutes left here. Let's see. Boom. Yeah, so majestic. This man was. He was a great instructor, and certainly will have to go back to Bora Bora and scuba diving. But whoever is following along this week on these challenges, you will be seeing a lot of my Bora Bora content because I have tons of it, and it's still, ooh, that's cool. That's a really cool moment right there. Let's, it even looks sweet in reverse. I don't want to take anything in the beginning part of that, so I'm just going to press Q. Boom. Blowing O's. That's a pretty cool ring. I don't know how he does it, but I'm not going to question it. All right, and I think he does it again. Not as well. That part not as well. So I'm going to keep what I have there. So now we're starting to get our selects really, really dialed down. All right, same thing. Okay. And what I like to do is you can almost do this like a third time. So let's say, for the sake of time, let's say these are my selects right here. I'm going to copy and paste that. So you can see how much, if I zoom out on my timeline, how much tighter those selects are just from what we imported. And let's say I wanted to tighten this even more. I like maybe that moment more. Boom, 2 paddles. And I don't like that wave as much. So maybe I'll come in here, drag this out. So boom, boom. Maybe I just go right to where my hand comes up. Oh, Q, boom. And let's cut it even a little bit sooner. You know, like fast cutting is it's okay. I mean, honestly, especially with social media these days, and just it depends on what you're cutting for, but I think aggressive and fast cutting does help. So you can continue to just narrow this down even more, and you realize like how tight you can get your edit just in the select process. And then I work from there. So again, very, very quick, kind of down and dirty tips today for anyone just starting out, or even advanced editors that are looking for ways to speed up that workflow in their daily, daily work and daily video editing. So again, thank you so much to those who hopped in the chat. Again, this will be replayable on YouTube. And so please head over. The description should have the files to follow along with me. You can just check out some really weak scuba diving for some first timers. And hopefully you've learned something. And if you're watching this and you're getting really stoked to just get in and edit some selects, I think I've done my job. Hopefully I have. And make sure to tune in tomorrow at the exact same time. We will be going over another Premiere Pro tutorial all about animating some of the titles using some new features in Premiere Pro. So thank you again, everyone, for joining me on this Monday, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.